Today I'm going to show you the technique that you need to learn if you want to separate yourself from every weekend angler and the pros who fish on national tournaments. This is a must-see, guys. Stick around. Like I said, this is a technique that you must know in order to separate yourself from the weekend angler and the tournament pro.
So the men from the boys.
We are separating men from the boys here today. And today is Wednesday, and it is the first time that we are in the pool, because from now on Wednesdays, we're doing Underwater Wednesday. That's right. We're not going to be underwater today. We're going to be fishing. We're going to be showing you a technique that is on top of the water.
What? You said you were taking me swimming.
Not today. But you're okay. Maybe if I get snagged, you can go in and get it.
Now I gotta go take off my bathing suit.
Guys, skipping a jig is very important, and there is a very specific technique. Megan talked about separating the men from the boys. The first thing you need to learn in order to skip a jig is actually you gotta go back to when you were a boy and when you first learned how to fish with a baitcaster. Remember the old trick about putting some tape on that baitcaster so that you wouldn't backlash. We're gonna do the same thing. Come on along, let's show you how to do this. So the first thing I'm gonna do before I ever skip a jig is I'm gonna take my bait and I'm just gonna pitch it out that distance so that I know the length of the cast that I'm gonna be practicing at. I now have it on my baitcaster. Now I'm gonna engage the reel and I'm just gonna hold it right there. Now what I'm gonna do is just take a piece of Scotch tape and put it on my reel. That Scotch tape is now going to prevent my reel from taking up any line past that Scotch tape. As I reel the line over the Scotch tape, when I throw out again, the Scotch tape will stop the line at that point.
So, Mark, does that mean that you're gonna have Scotch tape on there for the rest of the time you're
No,
fishing?
I'm doing this to practice. Once I get to the point where I'm not relying on the Scotch tape to prevent backlashes, then I can take the Scotch tape off. But I need to, this is something that's gonna take weeks and weeks of practice, and so I can do this.
Well, Mark, you're one of the lucky ones. You have a pool, so you can practice all you want in here. What about people that don't have pools?
One of my biggest suggestions that I would do would be you work in an office complex. Every office complex has one of those little retention ponds. Bring your rod to work. When you get off of work, head down to that little retention pond and spend 15, 20 minutes skipping a jig right out. You don't need, I built myself a little tunnel, a little target. But to start off, you don't need that little target. You can just practice skipping a jig and getting it to go where and the distance that you want. The reality is, yeah, I have a pool, but it's only that only gives me this length. I need to practice longer lengths and shorter lengths and things like that. But I am lucky in that I can do this here, and we're gonna show you how to skip a jig. Okay, so the next thing that I wanna show you is you need to set your reel at the right setting in order to do this. You do not want to set your drag at a point where it's too stiff, where you engage the reel and it doesn't fall by itself, but you don't want to set it to the point where it goes too fast. So take your rod tip, engage the reel, and let it kind of slowly go down. As long as it goes down in a kind of a controlled fashion, that's the right speed. So I've got my tape on my reel. I've set my drag at the right tension, and now I'm about to skip a jig.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna make a little bit of a roll cast. I'm just gonna skip the bait. I got it to skip. Now I need to just get it to the target.
This reminds me of when I was younger and people would try to teach me how to skip rocks, and I was horrible at it. So not only skipping this, but hitting the target is impressive.
But Megan, you bring up a great point. If you notice, not only am I making a roll cast, but I'm also kind of leaning over, just like as if I was skipping a rock on a body of water. Now
Okay.
I'm leaning over and kind of getting low to the water, because I actually can skip that bait easier if I kind of get down and run that bait parallel to the water. It's actually part of the technique. Look at that. Right into the target where we want.
Yep.
And it's part of the technique. And again, if I do get a little bit of a backlash, it's only going to backlash to the tape. So I can peel it out real quick and get back to it. That tape is not going to be there when I'm fishing. I'm going to practice this enough to the point where it becomes supernatural for me to make that and thumb my bail or my reel until at the exact right time, so that I don't need to do it. But in the meantime, while I'm practicing, I'm worrying about and focusing on roll cast, lean down towards the water, make that skip, get that bait to hit about 40% of the way to my target, and then focusing on leaning over and getting that bait to go right to the target.
Okay. Guys, we hope you found this video helpful. If so, please subscribe, hit the like button, and add your comments. Don't forget, if you guys give us an idea and we use it in a future video, we will send you a Megan handmade bag, gift bag. So think it over.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Have a good night.